Then let me teach you a lesson. Are we going to stand around here all day, or are we going to fight?
Yeah, I got on Kingsman 1, and that's the first time I'm back with a bunch of ex-Marines and paras. There's 60 of us in this hangar. Some guy dropped a weapon, and Buckers shouts out, "Is that your leg, Jez?"
Tough times never last. You will look back and you'll go, oh my God, I can't believe I got myself in that twaddle.
Really funny, really great feeling. Got a job to do, lot of laughs.
Kev, former Royal Marines Commando. How are you, my dear brother?
I'm good, Chris. I'm good. How are you? I'm English Veteran of the Year. I hear you win.
Oh, and look what I just happened to have here. Yes, mate. Kevin, it amazing what bootnecks achieve, for crying out loud. I mean, world records, rowing the bloody Atlantic in record time with one leg, writing books upon books upon books as best-selling authors, cracking off the old charity work, and inspiring people, and inspiring people, and that's what, I never thought when I ran that endurance course in February, when we was breaking the ice on Peter's Ball, that lo and behold, what is it, 25 years later, I'd be chatting to you, and it all counts for something, doesn't it?
It's crazy, mate. It's like another life again, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, what always amazes me, because my younger brother's a bootneck as well, was a bootneck. Oh,
bad luck.
I know. And it's kind of like we were so young when we did it. You forget how young you are when you go and do that. So, yeah.
Yes. You want to know a funny thing?
Go on.
Mate, I'm fitter at 50. Well, I'm 53 now, but than I ever was in the Corps. And just to prove a point, was it last year I took a team of elite veterans, all of us, getting on a bit. We went up to Achnacarry in Scotland.
I've been, it's lovely, isn't it?
We chucked on the old, 33 pounds or whatever it is. And we cracked out the 9-mile speed march in an hour and a half from the Achnacarry train station to the castle where Churchill's commandos, did their training to go behind enemy lines, many of them knowing they probably weren't going to come back. And I think I enjoyed it more
Well, it's because you were going home after it. That's why.
Yes.
I've been up there, mate. I've been up round Lochlockey. Amazing place. Love it up there, up Speen Bridge. So,
Scotland, isn't it? A beautiful part of the world.
Unbelievable, mate. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And Scottish people, I never got this in the Corps, Kev, right? Because when you're in the Corps, it's jocks, sweaty socks, all the piss taking, blah, blah, blah. But you're all kind of like not a homogenous group, but you know what I mean? You're all on even Stevens, aren't you? I never realised till I ran the length of the country what bloody beautiful people Scottish people are. They are so, so kind, So kind.
I went through training with, Aldo. Have you come across Aldo Kane?
Yes, he's mates with Ollie, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Lovely bloke. And, doing amazing. Again, another couple of bootnecks doing really well. So, yeah.
Yes.
The jock says, look, check me out. So, the Scottish guys are they're different, aren't they?
Yes, it's like I say, I think one of the nice things about having seen a few years of life is you get to appreciate the finer things and the simple things that would have just passed you by, when you were younger, and you get to appreciate people.
Absolutely, mate.
So, my gosh, Royal Air Force to Royal Marines Commando. How did that all come about?
I was in the Air Cadets as a young lad, and I didn't really enjoy school. I didn't really go to school very much the last couple of years. I had a great education up to the last 2 years, and then just all went to ratchet. And late 80s, I realised, you get older, you realise more. I ended up going on to do a degree, and it was only in 2016, in education. And as I look back at that time that we were at school, the 80s was rough. The teachers were getting battered by the government and battered by us. So nobody cared if we went to school. So the last couple of years, I skived off most of it. But I was in the Air Cadets. I loved the cadets. That was where I got my discipline. That was where I was rewarded for effort. And I wanted to go in the Air Force, and I ended up joining as an aircraft technician. So I worked on Harriers, and I worked on Pumas and Chinooks.
Did you get to fly those little planes when you were a cadet?
Yeah. I did gliding. Here's the funny thing as well. I actually soloed a glider before I passed my car test. So I did 8 hours worth of gliding up at RAF Syston. And then one day I'd done, because it was a tandem, like side by side, the old Venture. And I'd done this lap with this pilot, and he jumps out. He goes, "Oh, no, leave your kit on." He goes, "You're ready." That's hell, you know what I mean? So I sat there, went through, because he had an engine on, went through all the engine checks and, turn the engine on, off I go, lift it up, and you do a lap. So bang a right-hander in, you're still climbing, bang another right-hander in. And then you're looking down on the downwind leg, and I'm looking down at the runway where I've got to land. I'm like, fucking hell, I'm on my own, you know what I mean? 17 years old. And I landed it, obviously. Everything was all right, but what an experience. So the cadets was amazing. I went loads of places. Germany when I was 14. I went to Gibraltar when I was 17. And then I joined up when I was 18. I joined the RAF. So, yeah, that was what I wanted. But, changed my mind after a bit. I got bored.
I flew solo after, I think, 11 hours of lessons, right?
Yeah.
And the instructor says to you, "Right, plane's yours, off you go." And I'm flying, I'm up there in the sky on my own thinking, oh my God, why did they trust me with a whole aircraft? And now I've got to get this thing down on my... And
yeah.
I'll tell you what I was thinking, Kev, right, was when I learned to drive, like I couldn't drive on my own until I'd had like about 35 hours of bloody lessons.
Really? I did 7 hours. That was it. But I worked in a garage on a YTS before I joined up, and we used to borrow cars. Well, that was the 80s, wasn't it? We used to borrow cars. So I got pretty good at driving before I had any lessons. Yes.
Yeah, I was up there thinking, my God, they've trusted me with a whole aircraft, and I've just done like 11 hours training. I think I smashed it down a bit, but
yeah.
Yes. So, what's it like then giving up the RAF Scran for that of Her Majesty's Royal Navy?
Funny, mate. Funny you should say that, because I'd never had sweet corn until I joined the RAF, and then I don't think we ever had sweet corn in the galley. The food was wicked. Yeah, you get up in the morning and nip over for breakfast and just point at what you wanted them to make your omelette out of. Top, mate. And then when you got to the Corps, racing to Dutchies in the evenings to fill yourself up even more, ain't you? But yeah, quite a big difference. But
it's all changed. It's all changed now, Kev, because like if I'm going to big someone up, right, I'm going to big up Royal Navy chefs and Royal Marine chefs, because they are bloody the best at what they do.
I don't think it was that bad, to be fair.
No, they were great. There was even one time when I went vegetarian for a while, right? So I'm at the hot plate And I'm, whereas I would have had the chicken steak or what, the half a chicken or whatever they used to give it. And the bootneck chef saw me and he leant across, he went, "Are you vegetarian?" I said, yeah. He said, "Oh mate, you should have said we'll just do you a special meal." And I just thought that was like so special about the Marines, that do you know what I mean? It's not what people think.
No, it's definitely not what people think. Definitely not. I mean, I think it's the same in every walk of life, though. You get your good guys, your bad guys, but you did get looked after, didn't you? You did get looked after in terms of food. We had 9 o'clockers in training. I don't know if you guys did. Our kid, he always says to me, "Yeah, you like 9 o'clockers." So we'd go in and have an extra meal. They did that for us, and but it was bulk, weren't it? Back then, you just eat like bulk. We weren't defined. We weren't defined characters like they are now. We weren't chiseled back in the day because we just ate loads of scram. But we burnt a lot off as well, didn't we? So.
Yeah, looking back at that now, I do wonder because I'm a big vegetable guy now. I like to be buzzing, buzzing with the universe, and I do wonder if I'd eaten more vegetables in training rather than just. You was starving all the time, weren't you?
Always.
Every 11 o'clock nip to the naffy.
Yeah,
I get a pack of Twiglets, a pack of chocolate chip cookies, and another thing I can't remember what the other, and like you just wolf them down, and that is between breakfast and lunch.
Just eating machine, isn't you? You are just always hungry.
It's all changed now, Kev.
Yeah,
it's all done by, I don't know if it's Serco. Well, friends, we're going to be talking about more and more about Serco as the podcast goes by, but it's all this paper plate crap.
Is it?
Help yourself to this pre-prepared meal, then bin all that plastic knives and fork.
No, we were fed well.
Fed well with proper, what do we call them? Is it gaffling irons or is that the army? I can't remember. your knife and fork.
I don't know, mate. I don't know. I've not heard that one before.
Yes, eating irons, I think we call them.
Diggers and double duff. Always a double duff. Right,
yes.
Yeah. Seconds on the pudding.
So, 40 Commando. How was that?
40 Commando for me. I left training. I won the King's Badge. And I'm pretty sure I got injured in training because I smashed my knee quite bad, but it wasn't, I hadn't like snapped my leg in off. But and I'd gone to the sick bay and I spoke to one of I'm just trying to think, it was one of the Navy medics. She had a feel around, thought I broke my kneecap, but I went on. They just gave me painkillers. I went off to 40 full of painkillers. And the old leg, it just got worse and worse. And they're just filling me up with more drugs, coproxamol, brufen. And I kind of like, it was rough. The joining runs were pretty tough. You'd have your initiation ceremonies and they were vile, mate. They were vile. I'd got to 40. I think I'd be 20. Let me work this out. I'd be about 23, 24. So I got there and, we'll be 24. So I was probably a little bit older, and I'd done a few years in the Air Force, and it was a bit nuts. You know what I mean? For me, it wasn't what I was expecting. I wanted it to be more professional, but I wasn't in that state of mind. It took 11 months, and I kind of like my knee. I'd stopped taking all the drugs. I thought this is not good. I didn't know if it was in my head, but I stopped taking the drugs. The pain got worse. And the lump on my knee, just below my kneecap, seemed to be growing. And I basically refused to soldier. I went in to see the MO line. I was like, I'm done. And I was like, no, I'm done. I want an X-ray. I want an X-ray. And they sent me down to Derriford. So I drove down to Derriford, got the X-ray. I broke my shin. And I broke down because I honestly thought, Jesus Christ, I thought it was in my head. There's the X-rays. broke my shin. They scanned both my knees. My knees were both shredded from training, and put me straight in the leg plaster. I rang my little brother up to pick me up from Derriford down in Plymouth, and then went home and had a few months off. And 40 for me was just like, I mean, did you go 40?
No, mate. My acquaint with 40 is reading Mark Time's books.
yeah.
Mark was is a good friend of mine. We've lost contact in recent times, but he wrote this kind of expose, didn't he? On the
Go Commando? He wrote.
Yeah, he wrote 3 books, and I think the opening to Rocking Up at 40 is he says he's there as a sprog. He goes to the heads in the morning, so the bathroom folks. And as he's sort of brushing his teeth, he says some guy rocks up at the basin next to him, the sink next to him. He's dressed in suspenders. He's got like a 3-day-old stubble, and he's like spitting blood into the sink or something.
I got to my grot, man. Mate, yeah. It was bonkers, man. It was bonkers. So I got to my grot, it's old spider grots. So they're the old, what do they call them, Nissan huts that were there from the war. So 40 apparently was where all the GIs went before the ship, where the dead GIs had gone, like a morgue. So we got in these grots, and there's loads of stories of them being spooky and all that. But I got given this, as you pit. I opened up the locker, and there's like a cash bag, them canvas cash bags in now. So I think they just got back from Belize. So I take it out. There's a sawn-off shotgun in it. I'm like, gee, that's wicked. So I stuffed that in my car. I mean, you're young, ain't you? And when you say stuff like that nowadays, it sounds horrific. Like people are thinking, shit, the bed. But I chucked it in my car, took it home. So we had a few goes with this sawn-off. And eventually someone turned around to me and goes, Kev, you'll get 7 years if you get caught with that in your car. I'm like, I'm only playing with it, I'm only out shooting bits and bobs. So I ditched that. But 40 was nuts, mate. It was nuts. I didn't have a good time. I wasn't in my mind. Had been, I had so much going on at that point in my life with the injury. I hadn't got a stress management technique. So we were drinking a lot, and as a result of research, I found out that coproximal had been banned because of all the side effects. Making you feel weak, hallucinations, and I was experiencing a fair bit, and I didn't talk to anyone about it because you didn't. I just thought I was going mad. So 40 was crazy.
Yeah, I just got to ask you. Hang on, mate. I'm just googling. Sorry, I'm search engineering coproximal because I'm not sure if it's the same as cocodamol.
I don't think it's got the same base. I didn't.
God knows. Anyway, what I was going to ask is, when did you join Lympstone and when did you leave?
I joined 679 Troop, so that would have. When was it? I think it was October 94.
Okay, that's quite a long time after me then. I just thought for a minute there I recognised you from training, but
Phil was in 607.
Yeah, I was 5'8".
He passed out with 615. He was only 16 when Phil went. I would never have made it at 16, man. It's just a proper bit of skin.
Yeah, mad, isn't it? The lads that join up so young.
I was amazed, and one of the reasons I did transfer is because we were writing to each other, me and Phil. I went through, did the 6 weeks basic in the RAF, then I went on to tech training. I got best recruited in my 6 weeks in the Air Force, and after doing a number of years in the cadets and doing my Duke of Edinburgh, doing all that, it does really help. But then, when I went into the Corps, it was as a result of going to watch Phil pass out. And I went to the passing out, and I was like, this is amazing. I didn't even know this exists. I didn't know much about it. Phil had seen a Royal Marine display team when he was younger, and that had spurred him in. But I was always RAF. My older brother went RAF. R80 did 22 in the Air Force. But yeah, trade training was tough. because I didn't do my last 2 years at school, I didn't get any O levels. I had to go night school to get a couple of them to get in as a techie. I just wasn't used to revising, and it was hard. You know, we did a level 3 electrical engineering and instrumentation, and that was 18 months long. And I tried to leave in the middle of it because I'd had enough. I wanted to join and go to the Corps, but my flight boss, she took me to one side. I was getting into trouble in training, and she took me to one side, and she spoke to an officer at 40 Commando, funnily enough. And he had a word with me, and he said, look, if you don't pass this, the Corps is not going to be interested because you've gave up. And I was like, so I'll do this, then I'll transfer. But yeah, I ended up finishing, and then I did spend a couple of years in the Air Force, but I did get across eventually. But yeah,
Mate, I've got to ask you, I'm fascinated by this kind of stuff. So we've had Major Andy Shaw on the podcast. Lovely man, Andy. He's out there living in Ibiza now. He was involved in a very infamous incident in the Falklands where it turned out to be a blue on blue. Funny enough, this is just an aside, but somebody left a comment recently saying I was in that blue and blue. So I said to him, "Get hold of let's hear the other side of or let's hear all sides of the story." But Andy, great guy. He got the King's Badge. What is it then, Kev? Because when I went through training, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of people, I was just happy to get through each day. You know, I wasn't trying to be a grey man or nothing, but I don't think that was a bad thing in training, just to do what you need to do. But I have massive respect for someone that can pull that little bit more out the bag and actually, I don't know what it is, taking control, taking a bit more charge.
Yeah, I mean, before I even went across, it says, Phil, I want to get the King's Badge. He's like, man, you just want to concentrate getting through it, to be fair. But I was hell bent on it. So from the kind of I trained my arse off while I was in the Air Force to literally prepare to go in the Marines and get the King's Badge. At the time, I'd heard that you could fly as an NCO. So if you got the King's Badge, you might get advancement of rank, and then you could get to fly. I had that in mind, and I thought SF. I thought, this is kind of where I want to go. So I trained my arse off. It's literally you just like sometimes I describe it as like being Forrest Gump. So I just like, I'm just going to do what they say. I'm just going to do everything that they say and then give it a bit more. And I guess having that past military experience, I knew the game. I knew that it didn't hit me too hard when they were up in your face. You know what I mean? I kind of have a little giggle about it, and I did get a lot of bollockings, but they weren't detrimental to me being a good Marine. The guys in the training team could see that I'd got that they wanted me next to them. I was a good soldier. But what is the King's Badge? Well, when you get to your unit, it's a magnet, mate, and that's rarely talked about. It is a massive magnet, and you just don't want to wear it.
Yeah, because some guys wouldn't wear it. You could have it on your woolly pulley, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And your blues. I think some of the lads would have it on their blues, but they wouldn't wear it like day to day because it was just.
I got made to wear mine at 40. I mean, I was a right magnet. I'll never forget. We got a new troop boss in, so got a young officer, and I think he was about my age, and he got neat, and he deflected so much onto me, like crab fat King's Badge. What the is going on here? Do you know what I mean? And that was meant to be my boss. I couldn't find respect for many people at 40. There was some awesome lads, don't get me wrong, but there was some real heads. I mean, I think we spoke about it earlier, didn't we? Before you hit the go button, I think. And these are things that are not talked about. There was a lot of people in the military that have ran away from abusive childhoods, and it pops out. It just pops out. I was fortunate, I had didn't have any cash growing up. but I had all the love I ever wanted and all the support. But, you know, and I think this is why you see so many veterans struggling after, because they've never resolved the trauma from childhood. It's huge, mate. I swear it's such a big thing. So that's an observation I've had in the last few years as to why it was so crazy at 40 and why, you know, you just slipstreamed and got in. You did. I didn't follow the crowd. That's why I got a lot of shit. I wouldn't, well, after my joining run, I'm like, how humiliating it is. Fair enough. It has its place in a tribe. I get that. But it didn't mean I've got to join in. So I sacked him off. I got a lot of shit for that. I ended up sleeping with my bayonet for a few weeks. But
yeah, let's.
what's happening?
Mate, you say that
you lads gobbing off and saying we're going to come and fill you in. You're not joining. I don't give a. You know, and I literally slept with the bayonet for about a month. Just like the first one's having it, and I didn't really have much choice in it. Mad world, mate. People don't get, you know, some of the things that go on in there.
Yeah, I mean, the public just gets a very glorified version of it. Veterans tend to remember a very
rose it up, don't we, mate?
Yeah, glorified version. But you did have some fucking nasty, you know what's in there, didn't you?
Big time, yeah.
You know, and it might be the most popular guy in the company. Yeah, he might have been popular. He might have been in the Falklands. He might have all it, but he could make life miserable.
Do you know what I'm going to do, right? You know, well, I've wrote a book. You know I've wrote a book. There's a little piece in here that I'll just quickly find it, because I went AWOL when I was down at Logs. I decided to give myself a bit of leave because my girlfriend was pregnant, and the sergeant basically he said, you're not anywhere, you're not married. So I basically left, but there's a bit in here. I'll just read you a bit out, yeah. Being turfed out of a fighter unit was bad enough, but after months in plaster at home on sick leave, I was posted to drive a training school and on to the logistics regiment. This was never part of my plan. I arrived at my new unit and was hugely underwhelmed to meet my sergeant, a man who enjoyed his rank in the worst possible way. So that, mate, when I wrote that, and he's a man who enjoyed his rank in the worst possible way. He's a bully, mate, you know what I mean? And I was at one of the hardest points in my life. He was my sergeant, and he was just pissed off because I was injured. Cheers.
Yeah, so for friends at home, let's not forget the fucking legends that you meet in the Corps. Really,
100%.
really,
100%.
Yeah, really nice blokes.
Yeah.
Old sweats that they'll see you come along, and rather than try and make your life as difficult as possible, they're just fucking nice to you and they help you along. And we, my sergeant in Norway was like that. My previous section commander was just a drunken old bastard. He wasn't right in the head. He had to take all this medication, which is a red flag in itself, right? And someone had obviously put a kind word in for me to say, look, that cunt there is bullying the new lad.
Yeah.
You know, and the sergeant being what typifies the Royal Marines went, wait, Chris, we're going to move you sections, mate. Right. And I'll tell you what, I went from hell into paradise. Yeah. I still remember all the you know, the names of the guys in my tent sheet.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean, you're right, mate. I've made some amazing friends, you know, in the Corps, and learned so much about myself. I think looking back, I hadn't got the emotional literacy. I hadn't got the courage to share what was going on in my head. You know what I mean? I was hiding as much as possible. So, and again, you know, these guys, the Stripey, he would have had a massive his own shit to deal with. It was just of its time, wasn't it? And it was hard. It was hard. It was brutal like that. You know, that was how it was. But yeah, I did have some good laughs, mate. I had some amazing laughs. So yeah, I don't look back with any regret on any part of my life, no matter how tough it got. They were the lessons. They were the best lessons I could have.
Yeah, I mean, you can only have lessons, isn't it? That's I think what's been hidden from us in life is people think that there's good experiences and there's bad, and well, there's not. Because in order to end up we talked about this, to end up living a life in paradise, you've got to have a mix of it all.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to take it all on the chin and make of it.
100%. Our reality is what we think, and it's what we fill our heads up with. But, you've got to have a realistic viewpoint on what's happening around you as well. But practicing gratitude, for me, learning Tai Chi was my way back. That was my way back, because having left the Corps 98, scrambled around for about 4 or 5 years, ended up in a teaching role, weirdly enough. And I got purpose back. I got meaning back, working with kids who'd been kicked out of school. I was good at it. I cared. And it made me realize that, because these kids, a lot of the kids that get kicked out of school have had a tough life. And it made me realize that I'd had a good I had a good upbringing. I just had a tough sort of like transition going into being a parent. That was hard, coming out of a relationship, being injured and leaving the Marines. But that is literally where I learned to, I started to learn to be grateful. And I started to become self-aware. That's when I started to become self-aware, when I started to teach. And
just, Kev, before we go on to that, what did you go anywhere special in the Marines? Did you do any service?
I did a 12-month tour out in Ireland before with the Air Force, just picking stuff up that got littered around the province, and that's pretty much it, really.
What kind of stuff?
Bit aircraft that had been shot down that and all broken down, stuff like that. So nothing like a serious contacts, anything like that, but an overwhelming sense of doom, like permanently. But I had a good laugh. It was good fun riding around in choppers. Got shot at a couple of times, but didn't really see a lot. Or even landed and didn't know the chopper had been shot. You didn't know it took one. So it weren't. It wasn't heavy like Afghan stuff. But it was. I was young at the time. I was 21, and it was an interesting time. I enjoyed it. But later on, it kind of played on my head a little bit, working out why I'd been there. And there's a few lads lost in an helicopter crash as well when I was out there. So it was interesting.
You mentioned working with the let's just call them displaced youngsters.
Yeah.
Didn't you have a rocky period yourself? Was that like before or after?
In terms of education wise?
No, in terms of, I mean, like,
when I got that job, I was still going through the mill a little bit, but what I could do was compartmentalize and just go and work, and I just put everything into work. I wasn't sure, my own life was rocky, relationship stuff. I was going through a lot. My partner at the time, she'd gone through a lot. And, you don't know that when you're younger, you're bumping heads, and it didn't work out. But yeah, I found that tough. But I threw myself into work because that was literally where I felt like I had a sense of control over it, I guess, because I was teaching, so I had to concentrate. And it was good. So I did 10 years. I did 10 years full time teaching in further education, and I was teaching. I started off teaching motor vehicle mechanics and electrical engineering, and then I did maths and English. I had to teach that as well. There's loads of stuff you had to do at FE. I did 5 units of personal and social development with these kids. And then I ended up on the teacher training team and the quality audit team. And then I ended up teaching an lecture at university as well. So it's quite a sweeper journey from, leaving school with no GCSEs and then ending up lecturing at university. It's quite, I didn't really map that out. It just kind of like unfolded, I guess.
I mean, it said leaving the military tested you to your limits. In what In what respect?
Emotionally, I hadn't got the tools to deal with becoming a father when it wasn't in my plan to have a baby, even though we'd been together a number of years at that point. You know, it had been on and off. And I guess when you don't share your emotions, if you've not got the language, if it's just not done, then you're not communicating, are you? So, you end up drifting apart. I was still dealing with a lot. Injured, stress. In terms of stress management, I'd only ever trained. So I didn't, I ended up drinking a lot more and ended up taking drugs as well because they were there. Everyone had, I hadn't done it. I did a bit when before I joined up, but not a lot. And then when I was a soldier, I was like, no, that was what I was doing. But then as I left, I ended up playing music, writing music, playing in bands.
Tell us about that. I mean, I'm just trying to make sense of your journey. Did you experience homelessness? Did you battle addiction?
No.
Were you on the rave scene?
I don't think I was addicted. I don't think I was ever addicted to any drugs. I just took them recreationally, but I was doing a lot. What is a lot? I was living
talking to the wrong person.
Me and Phil bought an house when we were both still in the Marines, and he'd moved. I'd bought him out, and he'd moved out and got on with his family and that. I was still in the house, so I was still sort of like single parenting it with the youngest. And it's complicated, isn't it? And I was just trying to make ends meet, basically. But I was in and out of work because I hadn't got any, low self-esteem. I didn't really like who I was. I fucking hated myself, I think. So it was just a case of masking everything. And when I had Litland every other weekend, pure dad in it. When I didn't, party like it's 1990 whatever year it was, and then that was kind of my life. Was kind of it was I sort of segmented it off, and then when I got the teaching role, did it again. I was teaching, put a lot of time into the teaching.
How was it then to be partying and teaching and doing stuff to make ends meet? What?
Well, by the time I got the teaching job, that was financially, that was when I started to get secure financially. But I was in and out of jobs for 5 years previous to that. Yeah, that was the hardest bit because I was still with my partner, but I was like taking jobs. I didn't know what I was doing. I took a job working for a sound and light company, and I was getting like about £5 an hour and working 90 hours a week shop fitting, still living out of a bag and not really earning a lot of money to run an house and have a child. And I was fucking hell, man, if this is life, I don't fucking want it. It's shit. And then I remember I got sacked from that job after about a year. I was the first guy that he'd employed, and then he built the company up. And I was like doing admin as well as being out on jobs and running little jobs. And I remember I got to work one day, and there's a sheet with all the lads. There's about another 10 lads that we took on in the year. And I looked, and he'd left it on the desk that we shared. And it got everyone's price, and everyone was earning different money. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I photocopied it and gave everyone a copy. Pinned it up. I'm like, this ain't fucking right. I got sacked from that by recorded delivery. That coming one Christmas. So yeah, it was just manic, mate, up and down, just trying to keep jobs. So I eventually ended up contracting on electrical contracting for a bit with a mate of mine.
So what we're saying is, do you think the military doesn't really prepare you to go into Civvy Street? Is that
you've got to ask yourself how much of it is their responsibility, haven't you? Really, I think they back in the day, I don't know what they do now, so I can't make an honest comment on what occurs now. It's been a long time, so I don't know what. For me, I could have done with. I don't know what I could have done with some social support. You know what I mean? It would have been obvious now that I would have been extremely unhappy. When I was bouncing around in the court, But what can they do, Chris? If you like we spoke earlier, if you've got childhood trauma that you just can't crack, you're not in a place, your level of self-awareness or is not at the point where, or you might not want to delve into it. That anger that you can't quite put your finger on. If you can't deal with that, if you can't find inner peace, then how can the military help you anyway? I'm not sure, mate.
Yeah. So Kev, sorry. Yeah, I'm just trying to build up the picture. I think you sound a bit like myself, right? The reason I joined the Marines, I was actually on an electrician's course before them, right? I'd done a year of being a Sparky. And no disrespect to Sparkies out there. I have massive, massive respect for everybody that finds their way in life. Anyone that does a trade, learns a skill, and actually just gets out and puts good into community. For me, Kev, I found it like my mentor on this Sparky course was just a bit of a dick, right? He used to get in the car in the morning and he'd like look around, check his missus wasn't watching, then he'd get a ciggy out and he used to smoke them like this. And I fucking hated him. He used to talk down to me in that way that people did back then, that like make you really feel like you're shit. And I felt shit. I left school. I'd done about 12 fucking O levels or something, and I passed 2. Right. This is and I've liked a bit of the old technology. So I got my one O level in control technology, one in design. So I'd like an interest, I like fucking around with stuff, right? So I'm doing that course and I'm crawling through these attics and lofts full of all that fiberglass insulation, and it's going down your back. I got this guy going, yeah. And then I got enlightened as to the Royal Marines. I actually got bet. I became homeless. I was living in a Renault 12, right, in a shop car park. My mate come up one day and he went, I've just joined the Royal Marines. I've been on this 3-day course, right? It was fucking mega. You won't believe it. They made us do this. We had to do the endurance course. And then they're screaming at us. And there was this other dude on the course and he was really cool. He was a Welsh rugby player. John, hello, if you're watching. And he made everything look easy. And, and they called us into the room at the end and there was like 15 of us. 2 of us, Pat, and I was like, and he went, of course you couldn't do it. I'm like, no one told me, Kev, what I couldn't do because I was a very damaged youngster. I was very I was fucking homeless for the second time. This is at 17, homeless for the first time at 15 in my school uniform. And when I started reading the brochures, mate, and seeing that these boys actually did something with their lives and they go to this place called Limpston and there's a fuck off ethos around that you can't understand unless you get into that model, you can't understand it. I thought, do you know what? I think I can do this. I can do 50 push-ups. Yeah, I can do that. I could do 30 pull-ups and they only wanted you to do 6. The swimming, I was a bit, I think I can squeeze through that, right? And that was the thing. So I joined to give myself direction because it gave me 250 quid a week, which was a lot of money back then. And it meant I could hold my head up proud because I am a Royal Marines Commando, right? The moment I left, and folks, my book's up there, Eat and Smoke, if you want to learn more. But I left because I had this quote unquote $1 million business in Hong Kong. But when all that folded, guess what, Kev? I was back to that guy again, wasn't I? I felt completely directionless. I felt lost. I felt, what can I offer anybody? If I put former Royal Marine on my CV, an employer would look at it and go, "Oh, was that like the army or something?" Is it? Yeah, they couldn't. All this stuff about you join the Marines, you got a job for life. Everyone will want. No, civvies couldn't give a shit about it. It meant nothing to them, you know. And there I was, and friends at home. I'm just leading into this because I want to hear Kev's story. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot on Kev's podcast, but my point is, Kev, right, is I just had that total lack of, I had self-confidence in massive amount. You know, I was a kid at school. If the ball went in the river, I'm fucking in after it. If it went up the highest tree, everyone's pissing themselves. I'd just climb up and get, you know, I was fine. But deep inside, I was very broken and I was very damaged. And something was missing, and I didn't have that confidence that some people just seem to bloody have. And it ended up with me in Hong Kong, chronically mentally unwell, addicted to crystal meth. My brain was frazzled. I literally was that guy when you walk down the street that other people cross the road to avoid. Like I was that guy, you know, and it took, and that wasn't even the rock bottom. I come back to the UK, and then finally my life had descended into such utter sadness and shit and chaos and depravity. You know, my house was just a fucking pigsty, right? And I had like nervous breakdown, I think number 3, mate. And I just lay there shivering on the floor because I couldn't afford to put the heating on. Couldn't get any more gear. I'd spent all my money. Couldn't get any food because I'd spent all my money on the. And as I cried my fucking eyes out, it fucking hit me. It suddenly hit me that I'd done that to myself. I could blame upbringing. I could blame parents. I could blame society. Don't understand people. Like I wouldn't blame the military. I had no sort of real reason to, but you know, and it hit me in that moment. Hang on, Chris, if you don't start taking charge of you and appreciating that you're still alive, mate, when some of your buddies have been killed in horrible they can't live now. They can't wake up and smile at the morning sun like you can, mate. So fucking crack on. And Kev, from that moment, mate, I never look back. That is my life now. That is what you see on YouTube. That's what you see when when I do public speaking. It was that moment. There was that moment in my life where I realized, stop feeling like a secondhand citizen. Take charge of it yourself. Get out there and fucking smash it, you know? And little by little, literally little by little, when my attitude changed, things changed and things started to come to me. And they started to come to me. And I realized that actually I've got a whole lot in my life I can make a lot of, you know, that I didn't think, you know, I can walk on fire, right? I can firewalk. I've been a Royal Marines Commando. I've traveled a lot. You know, there's a lot of stuff that is really easier for us to go, well, that's nothing. And but to get back to your point, and I really hope this helps people out there, helps veterans out there, is, mate, I know what it's like to feel that. Is it discombobulation? Like massive
disconnection.
Yes.
Yeah, a massive disconnection from like being a human, isn't it? And for me, it was, I lost my identity. I didn't quite know what was missing, I don't think, but it's love and belonging, Chris. It was that feeling, I think, with being in that pack, being in the Corps and having that solid identity and knowing that you're part of something bigger, surfing. When I come home, I couldn't, you know, my injury, I couldn't train for 6 years. It was still, my knee was still fucked. It took forever to fix. Every time I went out to train, it started hurting and, you know, it was painful. I just thought, fucking hell, I was left. They said we could operate on it, but you might never walk again. I mean, it was to leave with that in my head. That's when I started. I mean, I was writing. I was playing guitar before I left the Marines. I needed to do something. I've always been creative. I was writing poetry, writing songs, got in the bands, ended up taking drugs, and just trying to keep my life together, really, and just bobbling along. It's hard to. I don't think you ever really know where somebody else's head's at. But when you said, you know, when your attitude changed, that is when you realise that you have done it all to yourself is the place. And I remember I'd shaved my head. I started Tai Chi. That started me to learn to breathe and become present. And then you kind of like, I remember the first session I went in, I just fucking broke. After everyone had left, I just broke down in front of the guys that were instructing. I sobbed my fucking heart out, and they said, "You're amongst friends. It's okay, let it go." I'd never done that. I'd never let it go. And then I kind of picked myself up from that, learned to breathe, practicing meditation as much as I could. I did start to take control of my life. I was going through a tough time. You know, I'd split up with the missus, but she couldn't leave, so we're living in separate rooms. That is fucking purgatory, mate. That for anyone with a little, and I'm trying to keep shit together and trying to follow some sort of dream. Writing, ended up in bands, playing like skate punk music. I was into sort of all the stuff like Offspring, Green Day, and the Nirvana stuff come along. I was into that, and that was, you know, we got noticed by EMI. This is all before Napster came out, you know, all that shit. And I was going down that road, but you know, you get to a point where I think you're looking for answers, but the answers are all within yourself. And that was it for me. I looked in the mirror and I was like, where the fuck is that Marine when I need him? And literally, just like you, started to look on how I could help other people as well. At a time when I was hurting the most, the best way for me was to connect with other people and help people less fucking fortunate. And the teaching role brought that to me. Made me wake up. It made me wake up. And that's, you know, that was kind of...
How did you land the teaching role? Was this the university one? Or
it was... No, I'd got a level 3 in electrical engineering, a level 2 in motor vehicle from a YTS. And my auntie's like, oh, next door's, he knows his name's Chris, he's got no power, and they got a little baby. And I went round, and it was a lad I'd been at college with when I was doing my YTS, and he was working at the college as a team leader. And I went in, his circuit breaker had gone. So I went in, I changed it I gave him a bit of temporary supply for the night, so I got a little learn. Went back, he said, what do you want? Well, just give him the money for the, for the bits. You're all right, Chris. He said, you ever thought, he says, what have you been up to? So I told him, what calls you got? Told him, you ever been in trouble with the police? No. He says, do you fancy teaching? Well, I laughed. I'm like, are you kidding? He says, no, we need someone to teach. We can't get anyone to teach these kids who got kicked out of school. That's how I got, it was complete, like, I don't know. It was just, I did a favour and it come back. And that literally was the start. That job brought me back to life. That reconnected me with people, made me human again, which is an odd thing to say, but I'd lost all my compassion. I think I'd had it battered out of me. That was literally, I was living in a world where I needed to have compassion, but I didn't have any. It came back slowly. It was, I don't know, very, very difficult to describe. A long-winded process and coming back slowly, changing the way I thought about life, changing my behaviours, started going out walking and pushing through that little bit of pain. Whereas I didn't want to push through the pain before. I pushed a little bit through the pain on the knee and slowly built up and got a fair bit of recovery back from it.
That's the thing, mate, isn't it? It's tempting for people listening to think, oh, you just went and changed someone's fuse. And we're thinking about the physical. But it's hard to understand that when you're that broken in life and you're struggling, that it's nothing to do with like the fuse box.
No, nothing.
It's about the metaphysical shit that's going on in your connection in that moment that takes you from feeling, say, useless, to going, actually I've got a value and I can do stuff and I can help people. Yes. How did it progress from there? I mean, you've done some amazing stuff. You've done like film work and
yeah, I did the 10 years in teaching. I didn't do the degree till after. We did a cert ed, it's called Certificate in Education, that you did for FE. It's like a level 5 qual. But I left teaching because it just got a bit silly. The values of the senior manager didn't align with what I wanted, where I was going, and you kind of outgrow stuff. So I ended up leaving there. And I just needed to get out. I wanted to go and do something less institutionalized. Ended up on site, working on site with my mate. He said, I got a job. You can go digging holes and shit. Like, that's brilliant. But I also got a job working as a performance coach for World Skills UK. And I signed up to do some military film services. MFS did some work with them. So I got on, I got on Kingsman 1. And that's the first time I'm back with a bunch of ex-Marines and paras. There's 60 of us in this hangar for one of the scenes in Kingsman 1. And it was fucking epic being around all the lads again. You know, it was just, I'd never been in a room, an hangar full of guys for years. And it was like, fuck yeah, this is really funny, really great feeling. Got a job to do, lot of laughs. I mean, my good mate Jez, he's amputee, and he was in that. There was like, as you see the film credit, I think it's in one of the trailers, but all the guys running towards the and some guy dropped a weapon, and Booker shouts out, "Is that your leg, Jez?" Fell off, and you know, it's just the typical military banter, I guess. But it was such a good laugh. I went on to do a few films with MFS. And then let's just explore that for people at home. They're probably wondering what we're talking about. So Kingsman, it was a cracking film, wasn't it? It was about. Yeah. I got a memory like a sieve, but I do remember it's like this secret agent type dude, was it not? And he was the ultimate. He was like James Bond Mark like 25 or something. He had like that, yeah. So what did this film company that you joined, what did they do for that film? What was the role? Was it like extras or technical? Yeah, they supplied the extras that did special action, like all weapon training, weapon stuff. Because, you know, we can move on the camera and that. So that's what they supplied. But they also supplied stunties as well. Loads of lads went into the stunts from the Marines, loads of lads.
Are you an actor in that film? Or you know, are you...
No, just special action, sort of background work. I did a number of films where we just background. No, didn't do any speaking roles in them. So. Yeah.
So you were basically like bigging up the actors, making sure they knew their shit, and
just getting killed all the time by actors making them look good. That's pretty much our role. Just stacking up and getting shot down or getting your head blown off.
So you are actually in the film.
Oh yeah. I mean, and Kingsman 2.
Dude, you got to remember, people out there won't know like what we're talking about, and I'm just trying to build a picture of how does a bootneck get involved in the film Kingsman.
Okay, so I signed up to an agency where you put your military experience on, you put some photos on, and then that agency, when there was a film come up, they'd put a stack of you on it, and then casting would look through who they like the look of, who could do the job. Then you get a knock and you go like, oh, can you do this date? Yeah, I'll do that date. Here's your rate. Come down and do it. Get dressed up, do the rehearsals and do all that. So I did quite a few of them.
What were the actors like? Were they?
Wicked, mate. They're funny. Eggsy on the first one. We didn't know who he was, so we were just all taking the piss out of him. And then by the time we did the second one, he'd done a couple of films, I think. Taron Egerton, he's quite a good actor, good fun. Second one, there's a few of us, and it's Colin Firth, Eggsy, and they're in between take. Very funny, mate. Very funny. But dead interesting to see how it all operates. And some of the directors are really cool. Some of them are like quite odd taskmasters and, you know, interesting. behind the scenes stuff.
So the film follows Gary Eggsy Unwins, and that's Taron Egerton. Is that his?
I think so, yeah.
Recruitment. I think that's this. He's a Welsh actor. Oh, it's great to know that at least something good comes out of Wales, you know? I'm going to get in loads of messages now. Do you think, mate, do you think humour is like dying?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
And also we got that military sense of humour, but in specifically...
Gallows humour, isn't it?
Yeah, in specifically Marine humour. And I just... People just seem to take everything so face value now and serious. And when I take the piss out of
that's a massive issue, isn't it? People don't know how to have fun anymore. They don't know how to let it rip. I mean, this is, you know, we were talking about what I'm up to at the minute and the project that I've been running for the last 3 years. And there's a huge educational part of it where we talk about managing emotions, we talk about self-awareness, conflict management, communication skills, building our motivation works and quite a lot of them things. But on the flip side, we go out kayaking and swimming in the rivers and climbing mountains and having a good laugh, just not, losing that self-consciousness and being task conscious. And the task is enjoy your life, go and have fun. I say and a lot of the guys I work with will be, there's a lot of construction goes on around here, and there's a lot of guys work for the South or the running teams. I'm like, if you don't book a break, if you don't plan for fun and recreation, it's not going to fucking happen, mate. You got to plan for it. If you work for yourself, you'll never stop. So you got to plan for it. And that for me is like, yeah, what's wrong with going out and having a good laugh on the river, kayaking with a bunch of guys? That's what I was missing, mate, when I left the Corps. That's what I was missing. Someone to come and take the piss out of me. That's what I needed. But yeah, it's that love and belonging, mate, that identity crisis that I had, that transition into all the new emotions. I'd never been a dad. I'd never been injured. I'd never been fighting for work. I'd never been having to prove myself time and time again to get shit job after shit job. It's really difficult. I just didn't have the tools that I needed. I had missed a good, I come out at 26, and all the lads that have been in Civvy Street, they've had 8-9 years in working. They understand the system. I hadn't got a clue. And that's tough. That's tough for guys.
Mate, that's a beautiful thing about the Corps is when you hook up with the lads. I mean, I did some ocean rowing training, we can say. And I've hooked up with quite a few of the lads that have done this. And we went out, was it from Hamble, which is Southampton way, isn't it? I'm lost for words, mate, because how do you describe that? The moment, right, I'll hook up with Brucey, who's just a fucking lovely bloke. He's rowed the Atlantic, still serving bootneck, and you just hook up with the boys, and it's like nothing.
Everything's all right, isn't it?
It's like nothing stopped.
Yeah.
Nothing stopped. Next thing you know, you're in the pub, and it's the humour, just taking a piss out of each other for every. Conversely to what we were saying earlier about you get these fucking twats in the military. It's not just exclusive to the Marines. It's the whole military. You get a lot of damaged people in the military, and naturally, where you've got damaged people, you're going to get bullies. You're going to get thugs. You're going to get criminal people that shouldn't really be there. But a beautiful thing, Kev, to go out with the boys, and it's just like it's seamless. It's seamless.
I wanted to create that, Chris. I wanted to create. That's what I aim for. The Leg Up project is that, and I started off with an ethos, right? Be shit, supportive of each other, be honest to yourselves and others, have integrity. That's the iron shit, and take positive action, right? always put the T in shit. If you're not taking positive action, your life's not going to move forward, right? So I wanted to create a similar sort of feeling that you get, not judged, say what you want, you know, looking after each other, that brotherhood of support. That is what I'm creating. That is what I'm doing.
How does that give us some context then, Kev? Because Leg Up Project is just a, you know, what's
just
that?
A word, yeah. So it's
three words to people. What? How did it come about? What's it for? How do people join? Who's it aimed at? This kind of stuff.
Well, we're just running. I'm just running it locally in Northwest Leicestershire at the minute. So it's a men's health. I've labelled it as a men's health group, but there's educational packages in there. So we get currently Monday nights and Thursday nights. So Monday night will be a sort of classroom session. I'll bring a topic up. I'll share, talk about motivation, talk about
where does this take place?
This takes place at a conference room that we use locally in the town we're in, Colville.
Does that mean people have to live there, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a local project. This is what I'm doing.
Okay.
The reason, to upscale it's quite a massive thing at this point. But I did through lockdown. I did reams of like Zoom online sessions and that. I also take one-to-one coaching on as well. So obviously you don't need to. You can be anywhere as long as you've got an internet connection. You can do one-to-one. But this is a local thing that I've set up, and again, I guess I would upscale it, but again, it's got to work with what's happening in my life as well. There's a lot going on, family-wise and stuff as well. But it's a men's health group. Been running 3 years, and it's an education and outdoor education as well. So getting out, breaking down fear, learning more to understand your behaviours. But it's literally changing mindset and behaviour. So changing the way, helping you think from a broader perspective, and assisting you in practicing gratitude and being thankful for what you've got, but also to learn that helping other people is probably the fastest route to becoming happy. And you're helping someone.
Yeah.
That reconnecting and assisting someone who's less fortunate than you. So it's a collective, even though I add it up, I like to run it as a collective, and guys will kind of come in some lads have been with it for a few years. Some lads come in and out as they're going through different things in their life. And, it's one of them where you can pick it up and put it down as you wish.
They call it being in service, don't they?
Yeah.
Being in that, I think that's like a religious type reference, but it goes for everything. It just means, in life, you just should always be looking to give back. Yeah. Because if we look to just serve ourselves, and Scrooge together all our pennies and just only do what we think serves us, then that's living in the ego, and that just takes you down.
It's Northwest Leicestershire, so it's kind of in between Leicester, Derby, Nottingham, and the East Midlands, off Junction 22, the M1.
Is that actually in Scotland? Hi, mate. I'm a Janner. I don't go past Exeter.
Wicked, mate. Wicked.
And if you had
it's grim though, mate. It is grim.
Yeah, I bet you've had some good results though. It must be nice seeing people achieve.
It's amazing, and one of the awesome things for me is it's creating networks for people. So you get guys that come and didn't know each other, and then you just become really good mates. Mm-hmm. Look out for each other in terms of business as well. Giving advice, and then they don't need to stay. Then they've created these little pods of like friendships. It's strengthening the community, mate. And in all honesty, I don't want my kids and my grandkids growing up. If I can affect a community, I'm doing it. That's what's happening. I am raising the morale of the blokes that live. And let's be honest, this statistically, me and you, mate, we are at the top end of people that are likely to kill ourselves. So, our age group.
Don't do it before the end of the podcast, mate. That'll give our editor a fucking nightmare.
No, not planning on that one, mate. Not
Yes,
planning.
well, we are, but we should say on that point, shouldn't we, that fellas, if you're watching this now and you're struggling, I'll say fellas, how sexist am I? Fellas and fellasses, you know, it literally is just a tweak. When you're in the doldrums, in the dark, it just, you think the world is against you. You think there's no, and it's just fucking nonsense. It really is, you know? It really is. And if you're in that place, I just encourage you, go and sit somewhere with a bit of sunlight on your face, even if it's pissing down with just you know what I'm saying, and just remember that you're born a legend and that you're massively loved by people like me and Kev, by all the rest of the military community and the civilian community, and that tough times never last. You will look back and you'll go, oh my God, I can't believe I got myself in that twaddle. Bloody hell. What bad thinking. It's just bad thinking, folks. Okay. And you will come through it. You absolutely will. There's nothing worth taking yourself out of the game. That is silly. That is a momentary, silly act. It's just, but we understand it, Kev, don't we? We understand
100%,
it, you know?
mate. Yeah, when you're down, mate, it's fucking hell. When it gets dark, doesn't it? But it passes.
Yes,
it passes.
So we're going to put a link for the Leg Up project below the podcast. Kev, tell us about your book and how has that journey been?
Oh, mate, honestly, so just before I set the project up, I got invited to work with the Professional Speaking Association and went in, and which was really, listening to a lot of other different perspectives on life, different stories, business, and all these manner of things. And then I was invited to do a talk, and I wanted to do it on mental health wellbeing because I'd not long finished a degree. I finished a degree in 2016 in education, but I'd gone into well-being, motivation, managing behaviors, that sort of stuff. And I came up with the concept that if I could go back to the day when I left the Marines, what would I say to myself? And I had 5 minutes. So I weren't allowed to do PowerPoints and all that. So I'd created, I wrote a bit about what I felt that I went through in terms of what I called survival mode, which is a term that gets used a lot now. Back then, I hadn't really heard it much, but I wrote that down. And then learning to flourish was literally living your best life. So a sweep between the two, and a talk about 5 minutes of what would I say to myself. I created. I ended up creating like a little crib card, and that's what I started. I used that. So we had unsurvival mode, fight, flight, freeze, flood, form, fatigue. And I flipped it over. And as I look back, I thought, what were the most important things that I learned? And I made it into like a immediate action drill card. So got 3 main areas: be harder to kill, be easier to love, always fill your glass. And broke that down again. That is why I started the Leg Up. And the book is based upon that talk that I wrote at the start of 2019. So that it's to be able to share. I mean, I use a lot of the stuff in there throughout the sessions through the Leg Up, and everyone was like, I initially wanted to write it as a sort of course manual, but then I expanded it into sharing a little bit about why I had gone through, a bit about fight, flight, freeze, flooding, like emotionally flooded, fawning where you're submitting, you're giving up almost, and then fatigue is where you're just burnt out. So I kind of wrote around them bits, talked a bit about them, and then expanded into the learning to flourish. Breathing properly, drinking more water, eating well, sleeping well, fizz, developing your emotional intelligence, focusing on improving the moment, practicing gratitude, joy, considering how to give, like service, voluntary work, and then considering your intentions and talking to people properly, using empathy to assert yourself. You know what I mean? And all this kind of led into because I do a fair bit of work, still teaching teachers how to deal with conflict and stuff. But that is literally what the book expanded into. So I didn't set out to write as much about my journey, but it kind of got wound in from chatting to lads and running the project and what people were asking me. I kept getting asked questions, and things kept cropping up. So I put it in a book so I can share it, and people can just see that everyone goes through shit. We just go through it at different times, and I think having empathy, being a bit kinder to people, we wouldn't have to take a lot from everyone for the world to be a much nicer place, would it? So I'm just trying to share. Let's be a bit kinder. Let's be a bit more understanding.
Kev, you nailed it, brother. And I'm really proud of you as a fellow Royal Marines Commando to be putting this stuff out there. It really is special. Gosh, there's probably a lot I can say, and I am known to waffle, but so first off, right, you're always welcome back on the show anytime I can help you. Any projects you're involved with, if you need any kind of shout out to friends out there, like we say, get stuck in. We're going to put Kev's website details below. Send him an email if you're struggling. If you just got to reach out, folks. I'm trying to hesitate from using the word man up because that's got connotations. But what I mean is, if you're a real commando, you reach out to your buddies. That's it.
It's courage, Chris, sometimes.
Yeah, you got
to opening your heart up, mate. You got to open your heart up.
Yes.
You've got to. And I know it's fucking scary, but you have to open your heart and be vulnerable, because there's people out here, aren't they, waiting?
Yeah.
Just to help you out.
But it ain't being vulnerable to people like us because we've been through it, Yeah. We've been through it. And let's be honest, we ain't created bad lives for ourselves.
Right.
So we've done all the right things. Yeah. We've done all the right things, and I'd encourage other people to do the same. When I went through all the mill and all the shit, there wasn't people available, Kev. There was no military charities other than the obvious, British Legion, and there weren't people you could just jump into this Facebook group and have a chat, or this guy like Chris pick up the phone. Yeah, I did none of that. I had to work it out all myself. But the simple fact that all this is available now, folks, just shows you the amount of people that have been through the mill, have come out the other side, and we're just saying, it's fine. It's fine. It's absolutely, in fact, it's not just fine.
It's better, isn't it?
It's a massive learning curve.
It is.
Yeah. Sometimes people say to me, they say, oh, that Chris THRALL, he lost his way a bit in life, and he's, he's got on the I'm like, fuck off, shut up. Shut up. I've done nothing wrong in life. I've just had experiences. Sometimes they've been a bit extreme. I wouldn't change any of them because I lived a perfect life now. I've the perfect people around me. I've found myself in paradise. I don't want to get out of it, and I won't get out of it. But I couldn't have got here unless I'd been through all this shit. I needed to do that to kind of, make sense of it all. And you got to learn in life, cut away the bullshit, because most people are just going to tell you bullshit because they're brainwashed. They're brainwashed in this bloody system from birth that goes through education. It's not there for you, folks. It's not there to make you a happy, balanced, achieving individual. It's there to suit these psychopathic, bloody capitalist controllers, right? They don't want you. They want you unhappy, because what do unhappy people do? Well, for a start, they buy shit because they think buying shit's going to make them happy. You know, it's called capitalism. And of course, we've all done that, haven't we? We've all bought the flashy car, and 3 months later, you're just back to feeling unhappy again, and that car's rusting out on your driveway. It's listen to the people that have been there, folks, is what I'm trying to say. You know, we're not here for the popcorn. I ain't here for the popcorn. I'm just here for real life because it's so beautiful. When you discover it, it's just so beautiful, and it's available to everybody. And here's the thing. It costs nothing. You don't need to achieve any position in any organization to achieve paradise. In fact, that stuff's going to hold you back. Literally, if you've got nothing, and nobody, you're actually in a good place to start, right? Because, you know, it's kind of like the only way is up. So, Kev, listen, brother, stay on the line so I can thank you properly, but we're going to put all your links below the video so people can get hold of you, which I suggest they do. Anyone out there struggling, I'm repeating myself now, but, you know, reach out, folks, reach out, because it's a great life, you know, it's a great life. And if you are struggling, we're going to help you rekindle that love for life like you had. I remember going on leave as a young Marine, Bergen on your shoulder, you know, going through, I don't know, Exeter St. David's, and you just felt good about life, you know? You felt good, and you're going to go and see your civvy mates, and you're going to tell them all these exaggerated stories about what an hard man you are. and I'm joking, but, you know, I remember those times as being carefree and not no worry in the world, and just on top, you know, booking my next trip to Thailand or what. It is good. And like I say, folks, you know, we're going to get you back there, because every day should feel like that. Every day should feel like a school day, or a maybe not if you didn't like school.
School holiday, maybe.
Yeah. Kev, stay on the line, brother, but massive love to you and everything that you're doing and all your family. Let's keep in touch, because it's a great life, isn't it?
It is, mate. It is.
Friends out there, massive thanks to listening to me and Kev waffle on. I hope you get something out of it. But remember, we're born legend. We die legend. It's just up to you what you choose to do in between. Much love.